everybody officially to our first installment of Cannabis Night School presented by WholesomeCo and in partnership with Utah Patients Coalition, the amazing patient advocacy group here in Utah. We're going to be talking to you about some interesting topics tonight. We'll dive into that shortly. But right now, I would like to take a moment just to briefly introduce all our presenters. My name is Julian Miranda. I am the Community Engagement Manager for WholesomeCo. I'm super excited to be here. We've been working on this educational series for a while now. Super excited to get it off the ground. Thank you for joining us, and I will hand it over to the next presenter.
My name is Kylee Shumway. I'm the pharmacist in charge here at WholesomeCo.
Des?
Sorry, I'm in a different order on my pictures. Desiree Hennessy, I'm with the Utah Patients Coalition. We are the organization that kind of passed the Utah ballot initiative here and just continue to work on access for medical cannabis for patients.
Awesome. And then Dena?
Hi, my name is Dena Walker. I'm a nurse practitioner and I am a QMP, and I currently have over 280 medical marijuana patients, and I see people actually all over the state of Utah. I have patients, believe it or not. But I help people be able to obtain their card. I teach them about cannabis and about how to use it and all sorts of fun stuff.
Excellent. We're happy to have you.
Thanks.
And certainly last but not least.
Hi, my name is Mark Babitz. I'm a family physician, also a QMP. I just recently retired after spending 12 and a half years with Utah Department of Health. I served as deputy director from 2016 to 2020, and I was charged with actually helping implement the program along with Rich Oborn at the Department of Health and arrange different boards, including the Compassionate Use Board, which we'll talk about later. But I will be resuming my part-time clinical practice later next month.
Excellent, excellent. So we're really excited. We've got a great cast of presenters here. Our goal for these events are to bring all these subject matter and industry experts together to cover some of these topics, to answer your questions, and to provide really high quality information to you guys. So without further ado, let's keep this ball rolling. So again, we are WholesomeCo. We are a licensed cannabis pharmacy located in West Bountiful. You can see our address on the screen there. We are open Monday through Saturday to 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Give us a call, shoot us an email anytime. We also offer, in addition to excellent product inventory and a very knowledgeable staff, we offer remote or virtual pharmacist consultations, and we are also currently delivering to the majority of the state of Utah. So if you do not live near a pharmacy or have friends or family that live, more than an hour or so away, please let them know that they can safely and legally access their cannabis via home delivery with our services. Alrighty, so this week's topic is going to be understanding the qualifying conditions and how to get your card. Again, huge shout out to Utah Patients Coalition and Dena from Infuse for joining us to be able to speak on some of these topics. So as you can kind of see, we're going to be covering a quick brief history on Prop 2, explaining what the qualifying conditions for getting a medical cannabis card are in Utah, how cannabis can help treat and manage some of those conditions. We're going to talk about how to become a patient, how to become a patient caregiver, how to become a patient going through the Compassionate Use Board. And then we're going to also explain, what a QMP consultation process is like, what a pharmacist consultation process is like. And then we'll be opening it up at the end of our presentation for Q&As. So if you have questions as they come up, please just put them down in the chat. We'll get to them at the end of our presentation. So we appreciate that. Alrighty, so again, I think it would be best to understand to understand how we got to a medical cannabis program. It's good to understand our history and what got us to this point. Many people don't even know that we have a medical cannabis program in Utah currently, but there was a lot of steps that kind of led us here. So I'm going to turn this over now to Desiree Hennessy, and she will kind of share with us what the kind of pivotal moments are in Utah cannabis history.
Hello, hello. So yes, Desiree Hennessy. So I luckily have been around long enough that I've seen most of these dates myself. I was familiar with the passage of House Bill 105 in 2014. I knew a lot of people that were going through it. So what that did was that just legalized CBD usage for a small number of patients with intractable like epilepsy. So Dravet patients that were not getting relief from their other symptoms, from their seizures with other medications. So this was kind of like just a last ditch effort for them. And it kind of awoke the cannabis movement, because if they could do that where CBD didn't have a lot of research, why not cannabis that had so much more? So then we moved on to 2015. And this was our first try, Senator Mark Mattson, his first try with passing something. He didn't even, it was like 8 days at the very end of the session that he finally drafted something, and it obviously we knew it wouldn't go very far, right? And then but that was our first glimpse of what the conditions list that we have now. That's like the first glimpse of it. There was a couple changes. One was that this conditions list did have glaucoma on it. That's since been removed. It was actually removed the next year in 2016 when he came prepared with Senate Bill 79. Interesting enough, that made it through the Senate, and that's the picture that you guys all see where we're all like cheering, right? And the Senate floor, they actually gave us a moment to cheer, which they never do. At this time, PTSD was for military patients only. And that's when they removed glaucoma. They just felt like there was other medications that maybe treated that better. Also the same year, Senator Vickers introduced Senate Bill 89 that was just, again, like a low THC CBD oil. That passed the Senate, but wasn't even considered in the House. And at that point, the legislative body was kind of just done with cannabis, I think, in general. And then in 2017, we came back loaded and ready, and they said, we're not going to listen to any cannabis bills this year. And they just shut us down. And that is the moment that we, looked at each other and just said, then we'll do a proposition. So that's when, Proposition 2 was started, and all of that kind of passed. I mean, then we had in 2018, the next year, while we were passing Proposition 2 and working on that, we had Brad Daw did HB 195, which was the right to try. And it just basically gave patients the right to try, but only if you were dying within 6 months. And it was just and there wasn't any way to get it into the state. It was just a very, I would say, poorly crafted bill. It was just kind of a way to kind of put a Band-Aid on something that patients really wanted, which was Prop 2. So, and then everybody will remember that we passed Prop 2 in November. And another significant thing that we need to, they put the numbers on here, is that we passed barely by 52%. And then the legislative body overturned it on December 3rd, and House Bill 3001 took over on December 3rd.
Right. So I want to clarify too that, the language in Prop 2, that proposition passed, but then after, there was some revision to the language, and those revisions is the Title 2661A, and that is currently the structure and the program that we're operating in now.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. So thank you so much for that, Des. Again, I think it's really important to kind of understand that this has been a long time coming. This is it's been a lot of people that have been involved with this process. It's slow, it's arduous, but we finally made it across the finish line. And we now have legal access to medical cannabis. So So now we're here. We have access to medical cannabis. Where do we go next? Well, before you can even get your card, you need to make sure that you have one of the qualifying conditions. So that's what we're going to talk about on this next slide. We're going to explain, we're going to present to you guys what the qualifying conditions are, but we don't have enough time to hop or to dive deep into each one of those specific conditions. So we've chose a few that we can kind of speak to, but you will have the whole list here in front of you. Again, you can see it's quite extensive, but I'll go ahead and hand it over to Dena to maybe speak on to how cannabis can help with a few of these conditions that we have posted on the right.
Hi. So I want to talk to you first about chronic pain. Chronic pain, I would say, is the #1 reason that people are getting their medical cannabis card. It's the #1 reason I see people for. And what a lot of people are surprised about is that it's only pain lasting longer than 2 weeks. If you could see that right there on your screen. And so a lot of people don't realize that their pain actually would qualify them. And for instance, it also could be pain that's reoccurring, like migraines. And so a lot of people are surprised about that. So, if you have pain and you think you're not sure if it might qualify, just reach out and talk to a QMP. We'll definitely let you know for sure if your condition can qualify. But first step is got to reach out. Another huge one that by the way, I just want to tell you one brief story. In my other practice, I have a 81-year-old lady who's suffering from chronic neuropathy pain and rated her pain as a 7. And again, she wasn't coming to me for cannabis, but I started talking to her about some other alternate medications because she did not like the way any of like gabapentin or anything else made her feel. And so we started talking about CBD, and then I kind of brought up THC, and she was super interested, got her card. When I did her follow-up, which by the way, follow-ups are my favorite. When I did her follow-up at the 90-day review, she was smiling ear to ear. She said her pain level gets down to 0 to 1 at night now. She said it's the first time in 20 years she's been able to sleep through the night because she just uses a little gummy and a little bit of balm, and that's all she needs. And she sleeps like a baby and has never felt better. And it's just been amazing seeing those kind of stories like that over and over again.
And just to add on too, on the pharmacy side of things, we're seeing those patients coming in as well. And by the 3rd or 4th visit, it's a very dramatic, change in the way that they carry themselves. And it's amazing. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
If I may just if I can add a comment briefly.
Yeah.
You mentioned it. So the best evidence for treating pain is in fact neuropathic pain. So there's many causes of pain, and cannabis can be tried for any or all of them, but the best evidence actually is for neuropathic pain. So that's a good point.
Yeah. And another thing I really want to mention was that a lot of people are using this to get off their opioids. And this is huge. When I help people work with getting off their opioids, I do work with their doctor who's prescribing those so that, we make a plan to gradually get them off of those. And again, I see people back at that 90-day review, and almost all of my patients, except for one, has completely gotten off their opioids by that 90-day review. And the one that didn't, he still had cut down by 50%. So, it's really just, it's saving people's lives.
Substantial. Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'm not trying to take too much time, but PTSD, I have a lot of people come to me from PTSD. A great deal of them are vets. And again, the symptom relief that they're experiencing, their nightmares are going away, their triggers are going away, their anxiety has decreased enough where they can be out in public and be social again, and seeing the same kind of things like going from other medications they might be taking or just looking like a zombie to seeing that light in their eyes. And that's been amazing as well. And to speak about autism, I have both adult patients with autism and I have children that are my patients with autism. My youngest patient is actually 3, and my oldest is now actually 82. So I have a wide range of patients, but what these parents are telling me with their children, or not just telling me, I see them because I meet them in person, and I see them, and I see the videos. Their kids are going from not being able to be verbal at all to starting to talk, being able to actually go to school, being able to say hello to other children, not self-harming anymore. I mean, the parents are just, feeling like this is saving their child's lives. So really, this is just such a wonderful plan, and it truly is saving lives out there.
Yeah.
I'm
and
gonna hand it off.
To go off of your point as well, cannabis is a very diverse, medicine. And, as Dena was saying, and as Mark will continue to explain, there's, it can benefit so many different kinds of patients and so many different kinds of conditions. So Mark, please carry on.
Just if I go back to just a PTSD and autism for a second, just a reminder that PTSD requires a mental health professional's diagnosis for a QMP to treat it. So you have to have that information. And then with PTSD and autism, I want to emphasize the studies that have been done, and there's quite a few on autism actually in children. Cannabis doesn't show any evidence of curing the actual disease, but it definitely helps the symptoms of the disease that allow the patient to actually do the therapy. So the child can then be in their ABA therapy, or the patient with PTSD can be seeing their psychiatrist or psychologist. So it really improves their ability, as Dena just said, they can get out, they can do things, they can go to school. So it really can improve the symptoms of the disease, but we wouldn't want to confuse that with saying, aha, it's going to cure autism or PTSD, no evidence of that. Like cancer's in the same boat, really. I will mention some other studies, but with cancer, the main benefit right now appears to be helping people with their appetite and with nausea if they're on chemotherapy. Really good benefits with nausea on patients with chemotherapy. In fact, the first synthetic cannabis that was released by the FDA was something called Marinol that was used for post-chemotherapeutic, treatments to help with nausea. It's not a very popular medicine because it's a synthetic. It's not the real thing, but real cannabis can be very helpful for cancer patients. Interestingly enough, and there's a lot more work needs to be done in the test tube in the laboratory. It's been shown that some of the cannabinoids actually can cause death of cancer cells without harming normal cells. So there's a real opportunity for some research here. So it's very exciting. But at this point with cancer patients, we talk about treating, again, their symptoms of cancer, whether it's need to have not losing weight so much, improving appetite, decreasing nausea after chemotherapy. Epilepsy, we know well about the CBD, and they're actually the two specific conditions where the FDA actually approved an FDA-approved product of CBD for epilepsy. But other people have found that various mixtures of cannabinoids will work for other kinds of epilepsy also. And again, by decreasing the frequency or severity, it really helps the person be able to function. There's really good evidence about cannabis, especially the higher THC products, at really reducing muscle spasm. So any disease in which there's lots of muscle spasm, whether it's cerebral palsy or multiple sclerosis, somebody post-stroke, for example. There are many conditions where people suffer from muscle spasm, and in these cases, this may be really worth a try if other things aren't working for them and they need assistance with that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well said, guys. Thank you so much for all that insight and information. And I think, Mark, you had an excellent point. Audience members, please, understand, we're not here saying cannabis is going to cure any of these conditions. That is not the case. However, cannabis is showing promise to help manage the symptoms of these conditions and make life a little bit more, bearable and allow you to go through your normal day-to-day activities. So definitely a very important distinction there.
And Julian, that actually is the same thing of all the other medications I prescribe. Most of what we do in medicine is to relieve pain and suffering of patients, and only a few things are for cure. So yeah, cannabis is one more important thing in the armamentarium.
Perfect.
Can I toot the cannabis horn here for a second? Because, my son has spastic CP, so he, wheelchair bound. And a lot of the medications that we give him, cause respiratory depression, and a lot of, things like that. Have to be very careful. When we have been using cannabis, we've not only been able to decrease like his muscle relaxers, but any of his anti-spasm meds, he's totally off of those. But it's also decreased seizures. So where a lot of times we'll be giving a medication and notice that we have to now get a new medication or up another medication to mitigate symptoms from that new medication that we're taking. Right now, we're still experiencing being able to, get rid of medications because of cannabis. That's a huge win.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right, guys, moving right along here. So now that we understand what the qualifying conditions are, the next step is going to have your QMP consultation. All right. I'm sure Dena can speak to this. I know that this can be a very nerve-wracking experience for a lot of people. This is a new thing. There's the whole, like, am I doing something illegal? We're stepping from kind of like the black market into the legal market. And so I know that there's a lot of just uncertainty and confusion and not sure what to expect. So I'm going to hand it over to Dena. She's going to kind of walk us through the process and shed some light on what her medical cannabis consultation experience is like.
Hi again. So when people come to me, really the first thing I do is have them open up their EVS application, because it can be very tricky for some people, and people think that they've accomplished it and they've done it right, but they haven't. So we know that it's a hard process. So that's the first thing I get people on, to make sure that they've done that application correctly. But then what I do is I go into teaching mode. I love to teach about cannabis, and I love to to teach, not just to teach the people who are new to it, but everybody, because even people who have experience with it, they may not necessarily have experience with it using it medicinally. So I talk about terpenes. I talk about how terpenes are the medication, and I talk about how the entourage effect and how that helps relieve our symptoms. And I actually even provide a handout and give them that talks all about the terpenes and the symptom relief. I also talk to them about their endocannabinoid system and how to take care of it, and even how your diet will directly affect how your cannabis helps you. And so I talk about even eating clean and how that's much better for your cannabis. I also talk about differences between sativas and indicas. And, for those people who are interested in flower, I discuss with them about how it is illegal to smoke cannabis in Utah. Some people have heard that and other people are really surprised, but I talk to them about how, just because the health benefit, the health risks of smoking are obviously bad for you. So,
Sure.
That's, a big reason why that's obviously illegal. But what I also like to teach people about is that when you light a fire to your cannabis, you just burned off half your medicine. So it actually is saving your lungs, and your cannabis will go twice as far. So
If I can add to that.
Yes, go ahead.
Quick. So, and I think, one of the great things about vaporizing your cannabis flower that maybe a lot of people aren't aware of is that, so when you're using a dryer vaporizer, you're basically putting your flower, your cannabis flower ground up into a dry herb vaporizer chamber. That's essentially a small oven. After you have basically used or vaporized all that cannabis, and you're not getting any more of the the inhalation or the effect from it, you can actually use that cannabis. It's been activated. The THCA in that cannabis has been activated and decarboxylated into delta 9 THC. And so you can use that flower that you have just vaporized and either mix it and make edibles with it, whether it's melting it down into butter and extracting the cannabinoids that way, and then you can use the butter on other products. But you could even put that flower straight on, you can eat that flower and will get an effect. So you get a little bit more bang for your buck when you're vaporizing flower in that sense. So just something I wanted people to be aware of, that you can use that. It's called ABV, already been vaped flower. So just a little trick there.
All right, excellent. The other thing I go into with my patients is talking about product choices, and not, there's so many different out there, and I introduce them to various different products and really talk to them about how layering your cannabis with a combination of short acting and in the long-term acting and the short acting products can actually really elevate the symptom relief. So really it's a whole lot of education that I give people. And after that, obviously we finish up their certification. I always make sure that they are in a waiting state review before they leave. Just because, again, the website can be tricky. So I make sure, but when they're leaving there, we're good. We're all good to go.
Perfect. So if I can real quick, let's just walk through like just the steps. So the patient's going to want to schedule a consultation with you, right?
Correct.
Before they come to that consultation, in a perfect world, that patient or individual will go on to id.utah.gov. Again, that's id.utah.gov. You'll make an account on that website. Then once you've built that account and created it, then you're going to open up a new tab and you're going to go to evs.utah.gov. On that website is where you actually begin the application for your medical cannabis card. Okay. Make sure to fill out all that information. You're going to want to hit save on the bottom of that screen and then come back and hit save and submit again. That will take you to awaiting certification. What that means is that you're waiting to meet with the QMP, and that QMP is going to certify you to get a card or not. After you've been certified by the QMP, then you have to pay a $15 state fee to review your cannabis card application. And then after you've paid that fee, it's typically anywhere from a day to 14 days before you hear back from the state whether you've been approved for a medical cannabis card or not. So those are kind of the steps. It's pretty straightforward, but again, it can be a little bit confusing when you're trying to navigate the id.utah.gov page and the evs.utah.gov page. So definitely a couple of websites to be aware of. And then, yeah, Dena, did that wrap up? Is that all you have?
Yeah, no, that was perfect. I probably should have led with that.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. That's what, hey, this is a team effort here. All right. We're all in it together.
That was great. Yeah.
Yeah. So excellent. Mark, I don't know if you had anything else to add onto this section.
Oh, yeah, I can add. So I've basically been a part-time provider at the state of Utah's health department clinic, the Salt Lake Clinic, and that's been a half a day a week. So very part-time. And I was going through all this sort of getting up the cannabis program, was learned to do that. As a primary care clinic, patients come to see me for conditions. They don't come to see me specifically for cannabis. And about half my patients are ones who are already existing patients who we talked about cannabis as an option for them. And the other half that I have on cannabis are ones who came to me to discuss treatment options for their chronic pain or their autism, things like that. So I'm seeing a patient for an illness, and I'm providing a consultation just as if they were going to a specialist, for example, for a consultation. And we talk about their past medical history, their current medications, the situation that they're under, do appropriate exam, see if there's any lab work necessary and things, maybe get other records, and work with the patient to decide, do I believe that a cannabis product would be helpful for them or not? In most cases, they're coming to me with a condition that they know is a qualifying condition. And so the answer usually actually is yes. It's something that'd be worthwhile to try. Important thing about that approach for us, and like Dena said, we do a lot of education along the way about cannabis and the different products. We tend to emphasize focusing on, the actual content of the product, how many milligrams, if possible, of THC or CBD or other cannabinoids or terpenes are in there. Try to stay away from plant names and things like that, because that's not a consistent way to take a medication. But because we approach it this way, we bill the patient's insurance for the diagnosis. We bill patients' insurance for autism or PTSD or chronic pain, whatever the disease is. I have not had any patient have to pay us in cash for the consultation. All of my patients have been able to have insurance cover their visits because we're treating an illness that's legitimately covered by that. The insurance company doesn't ask me how I treat them. They don't ask if I use opioids or cannabis or anything else. They pay me for taking care of an illness. So that's probably the only difference. The other thing, in our office, we will tell patients if they want to go on the website and start the process, they can. Or we have staff in our office who can help them with the initial process. And then once they do that, we complete the medical side of it so they can then apply for their card.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think that was an excellent point that you made there. So there's definitely a distinction. There are multiple options where you can get a cannabis card from. Some places are cash only, and some options you will take your insurance. So just make sure you do your due diligence, look into it, find the right option for you. But you do have kind of two options there in terms of payment for your clinic. So definitely something to be aware of. I'm sure we may have some questions about this down the line. We'll come back and make sure to talk about it more, clarify it at the end. Okay, so thank you guys so much for that. All right, so becoming a caregiver. What a caregiver means is that you are an individual who is allowed to purchase product on behalf of a actual cannabis, medical cannabis patient. Okay, that does not mean that you can use the product yourself, but it does mean you can go to a pharmacy to purchase it for that patient. You can transport that product for that patient, or you can even order a delivery purchase for that patient. And then, the delivery will come to you and then you can bring it to the patient. So, there's a lot of patients that are either homebound, have difficulty leaving the house, have difficulty placing orders for themselves. So these are the types of patients that may require a caregiver card. So what does the process look like to get a caregiver card? Okay, well, first, the medical cannabis patient that has already been approved, has received their medical cannabis card, is ready to go. They are going to go onto their EVS onto the EVS website, and then on their patient profile page, you'll see a caregiver tab. The patient will click on that tab and fill out this information for who their caregiver will be. The caregiver does not necessarily have to be a family member. It could be a friend, it's not specific to a family member. It could be a friend or a coworker or etc. And so after the patient fills out this portion on their EVS page, then the individual who will be the caregiver must then create an account on id.utah.gov, also on evs.utah.gov, and where they can choose, on the top of that page, you have the option to choose your role. Some of the roles are patient, pharmacy agent, courier agents, etc. There's a caregiver option there. So you'll select that role and you will basically, this is the window that the caregiver will see on their website. They'll fill in this information, they'll save it, they'll submit it for review. They'll have to pay a $68.25 fee to the state. That'll cover the background check, the fingerprinting, etc., and that'll get them the card. So after they pay that fee, they will receive an email from the Department of Health with links to start the background check and fingerprinting process. Once they complete that, it typically takes it can take as long as 15 days for that caregiver to receive their caregiver card. Once they have that card, they are now legally allowed to purchase on behalf of the patient. And again, you are only allowed to purchase product for the patient that is assigned to you as your caregiver. That is it in a nutshell. I don't know if any of my co-hosts had anything to add. It is, I think one of the barriers with it is that, it requires, there's extra cost with it. There's that fee that you have to pay to be a caregiver. You have to go through the EVS process again, which can be a little daunting or time consuming. But again, this is the legal way and the safe way to be able to purchase patients for someone or product for patients who cannot purchase it themselves. Okay. And then chat, of course, if you have questions about this step or any of the steps involved, make sure to leave it in the comment section and we'll come back and touch on it. Okay. Next, the compassionate use board. So the compassionate use board is essentially for patients that are minors, so 18 years or under, I believe, or is it
21 and under?
21 and under. Thank you, Mark. So that's for patients that are 21 years or under, or that have a condition that is not on the list of qualifying conditions. Okay, so this is the process that you will have to go through to get a card. So
Sorry, I should have said under 21. 21 is an adult, so under 21 or a non-qualifying condition. That is correct. So the Compassionate Use Board has 7 providers. You see on the screen. I'll just mention the Compassionate Use Board in the law is described in it's 2661A, but it's section 105 if you want to read about it. Because many of these are children, we have tried, when we set up our first Compassionate Use Board, we were able to get several pediatricians to join the group, which has been very helpful. But by law, you have to have people who have some knowledge about cannabis. They're all of them are QMPs. We have to have somebody from any of these following specialties: neurology, pain medicine and pain management, or medical oncology, or psychiatry, or infectious disease, or internal medicine, or gastroenterology. So those are sort of the different options that we have. But really, we have really quite an excellent board. I think 4 of the 7 are pediatricians, 3 are not. The chairman of the board is appointed by the Department of Health. I served as the chairman of this board for the first year of operation, and now my person who followed me in my job is now the person who is the chair of the Compassionate Use Board. They meet monthly, and they're actually able to pretty much review any application that comes in during the first 3 weeks of the month. I can pretty much guarantee they're going to be reviewed that month. If your application comes in the day before the meeting, unlikely to be reviewed. But as it states in that 3rd bullet, by law, the board must make a decision within 90 days, which has been useful. Basically, the Compassionate Use Board is basically looking at 2 things. If you don't know this, it's really important to understand that THC has negative neurodevelopmental impact on a growing brain. That's why technically your brain grows till you're 25, but they pick the under 21. If we were to start giving THC to a child just for the heck of it, but the 5-year-old for the next 10, 15 years, they're going to lose a lot of IQ points by doing that and maybe have behavioral problems because of THC. So it's not a benign thing for a child. Now, the conditions that we're talking about treating usually are much more severe than the side effects. But what I want to say is the Compassionate Use Board is actually doing a very thoughtful, I'll call it a risk-benefit determination. Is the risk to this child by taking a product with THC higher than the benefit to be achieved? So for example, we've already heard some examples. Children with autism have severe acting out and violence and things like that, where they can't go to school and things. Those children are approved because we know that they'll be better off by going into the school and getting the training. The patients with severe, well, Desiree mentioned her son, patients with severe muscle spasms and things like that, where they can't function, or epilepsy. But my heavens, it's much better to be able to try one of these products, not only because of the side effects of other medications and the cost of them, but because they may get more benefit than that. But that's the whole point of the board, is a risk benefit analysis. And basically they are approving, I don't know what the latest numbers are, but it was in the 98% range of people that were applying. And usually the only reason they don't approve somebody is because they don't have the information they need. I mean, for example, a PTSD application, they're still missing the mental health evaluation. They're waiting for that. Or an autism, evaluation. Who diagnosed the autism? What do we know about that? So it's usually getting more information, and the health department staff will work with the QMP to get whatever information is needed by the board. So those applications might take 1 more month to get processed, but they've been very efficient and they've been very fair, in my opinion, about doing that. The QMP is the main person who has to do the work. There's a form that the state has, this form that they want it to be used. If the QMP will use the state form, it'll make it a lot easier. I can tell you that. It tells you all the questions you need to answer in order to have this heard by the board. You upload the petition and any other supporting documentation like consultation notes, things like that, into the EVS system. The patient has to pay the fee for the review, and then basically the panel can review it. And again, if the panel has questions, they'll get back with the QMP. They tend not to talk to the patient. They work with the QMP to get information that's required. But that's a real quick and dirty overview of the Compassionate Use Board.
Perfect. I think you covered all the points there. Again, it is a longer process compared to getting a regular medical cannabis card. But again, as Mark said, they have about a 98% approval rate for all the applications that come through the Cub. So don't get deterred by the timeline that's involved with going through this process. And again, your QMP is the one responsible for taking all your information, presenting it to and submitting it for you. So, all you have to do is provide all the medical history, medical records, things of that nature to your QMP. They'll handle that for you, and you'll be on your way to getting a legal card. Okay, guys? Excellent. All righty. So we understand the qualifying conditions. We understand how to get our card and the different kinds of cards. What's next? Am I ready? Are we ready to start shopping? Not necessarily. There's a couple little things that we have to do. And again, I think it's something that I am really into in Utah's cannabis program. I think the incorporation of having pharmacists involved with this process at the dispensaries, or pharmacies as we call them here in Utah. I think it's such a great resource for patients to have access to. You can ask the pharmacist all the questions that you want as far as products are related. I'm not going to talk anymore about it. I'm going to let our head pharmacist in charge, Kylee, take it over. Have at it, girl.
Thank you. All right. So before you can ever purchase medical cannabis here in Utah, you will have to meet with a PMP. And a PMP is just a pharmacy medical provider. And the consultations are really easy. We generally book them for 15 minutes, but I have been with patients for over an hour before. We will talk a little bit about your condition, maybe how you want to consume your cannabis, the forms you're kind of most interested in, or maybe you don't know at all the form you're interested in, and we can go over all of the forms. We can talk about every way that you want to take your cannabis. We'll talk a little bit about cannabinoids. We'll touch on the endocannabinoid system. And then once we kind of narrow down that dosage form that you're most interested in, we'll talk about some dosing. We usually touch on some legal things. And then I will always open it up for questions. So I have lots and lots of handouts that I give out. And those handouts usually help most of my patients think of at least a few questions for me. So I will take lots and lots of time with my patients and answer every single question that they can think of, because generally after they've seen the QMP, they've started formulating all of these new questions, and they can come to me and they can ask me all of the things that they want to. We offer in-person consultations. We also offer remote consultations because we do deliver to most of the state. I have patients that I talk to over a Zoom meeting, like in St. George. I've had patients from Moab. I've had patients in Vernal. So just all over the state. And it's been really, really nice to be able to talk to as many people as I can.
Yeah, that's excellent, Kylee. I want to add too that, we have several pharmacists on staff. They are always ready and available to talk to you. Just because you have that one pharmacist consultation does not mean you can have additional subsequent pharmacist consultations.
You can have as many as you want.
Totally free. We encourage you guys, talk to us, talk to your pharmacists. We want to be here with you on your journey of using medical cannabis. We're here to help you along the way, to help direct you to the right product. There are no silly questions. Ask all the questions that you have, buzzing around in your head. We're here to answer those questions for you and have that conversation. One thing I would also like to add is that we offer a cannabis curious consultation. So very similar to our regular pharmacist consultation, you'll have a Zoom meeting or an in-person meeting with one of our pharmacists. These are for people that are not patients, but think they might qualify to be a patient, but they're not sure, and they don't really understand what medical cannabis is, or they just want to learn a little bit more about, what the program is and what it offers. And so we offer these cannabis curious consultations. I'm going to switch screens here real quickly. I just want to show you, I have this image here on the slide, but on our website here, let me go back to the homepage. But you can see, if you just go to wholesome.co, if you come to the top left corner, you'll see down here, schedule a free cannabis curious consultation. Okay, so again, this is for anyone who's just interested in learning a little bit more about the program. They can get pre-screened to see if they qualify, and just provide any more insight and information into the program and how it works.
Julian, can I just add one point, which makes me really happy about the pharmacist consulting? Cannabis is a drug. Cannabinoids are drugs. They act on the body in many different areas. And like any drug, there are drug interactions. And there actually are some contraindications to cannabis by certain drugs. And patients may change medications with other providers. And that's a really good reason to talk to the cannabis pharmacist to say, Dr. So-and-so has given me this, now what do I do? Or should I be concerned? So I think it's fabulous that the pharmacists are involved, and they are really quite expert in these kind of drug interactions and possible side effects. So although cannabis works very well for the vast majority, it is possible that you'll have a contraindication or a drug reaction that you need to be aware of.
Oh, Mark, I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So again, guys, there's definitely a lot of stuff to take in, but you have the resource, you have access to people who want to give you that information. And again, just make sure you're asking questions and reaching out. We're here for you. We want to be here for you, and we're happy that you're here in the program and joining us tonight. So I believe that about wraps it up for our, let me see here. Oops. Okay. So, next, we just want to show you guys, or we want to provide you guys a bunch of resources and links to information here. At the top, you'll see our, we'll stay on this window for a moment. Definitely take a screenshot, guys. So you can have this information and come back to it later. You've got our website. You've got the Infuse and Medspa there. You can check out utahpatients.org, which I also want to plug in real quick. Des, your Utah Patients Subsidy Program. Maybe you can speak to that real quickly.
I can. Utah Patient Subsidy Program is up and running. Right now, we are taking applications for to help cover the cost of people that maybe cannot afford their medical cannabis. I know it gets expensive. It gets expensive for all of us. So we're kind of starting at the basic level. Right now, we're approving terminally ill patients that can't afford their medication. And then as soon as we get a little bit more donations and money, then we're going to start just doing, everybody that's maybe on government assistance. And then from then on, we're looking at another little side program that would benefit people that, are like me, that it's expensive and I really don't have the extra money to spend there, but it's needed in our home. So looking at just those different tiers, but you can get on utahpatients.org and apply. And like I said, give us a couple weeks to sift through all the terminally ill patients first, and then we will get on approving other people. But we're really excited about it. It's been really hard to watch patients that need this so much, and we worked so hard to present it to them and then them not be able to afford it. So hoping this takes off.
Well, it does. Thank you so much for taking the initiative on that and making that a reality. Don't forget, guys, if you want to donate to the subsidy program, they are accepting donations. So by all means, it's not, if you can help out, definitely help out. That those funds will go to a patient that really needs them. And I also just wanted to point out too, the id.utah.gov and the evs.utah.gov. These are the two links where you start your medical cannabis card application. So definitely make sure that you're aware of those.
I'd like to add, Julian, that the Department of Health has been 100% supportive of this program. I and Rich Oborn and a fabulous team have worked really hard to get things up and going and try to move along as quickly as the bureaucracy can move, because we believe this is an important program for Utahns. But we have recognized that the shortage of product, because we can only use Utah grown and processed product, has caused prices to be higher. And it's really our firm belief, and you can speak to it as someone from the in the industry, but we really have believed that as product becomes more and more available, prices hopefully should fall. And as there are more and more patients, prices hopefully will fall.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's definitely what we expect to see as this program expands. It'll improve, it'll become more affordable, all of that. It's just a matter of time. And again, that's why we want to get this information out on how to become a patient. We are seeing, I think we're over 30,000 patients now in the state of Utah. When the first year projection was, I think, in the 10 to 15,000 ballpark. So we are quite drastically outpacing the forecast for how the patient or the program would grow. I know everyone here is super excited about that. Please, guys, we're wrapping up here now. We made it through. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram. We're already on Facebook, so I'm sure you're already liking us on that page, but check us out on Instagram as well. Please follow Infuse and Medspa. Please follow Utah Patients Coalition. Thank you again so much for you guys for coming out and being a part of this, and as well as you, Dr. Babitz. Check us out on Instagram. Don't forget to try out our home delivery service. It's really great. It's really awesome. Make sure to have that Hyper app also. I know we've been answering a bunch of questions in the comment section. Des, thank you for handling that. I feel like we should again just kind of circle back to that insurance topic and just give one last kind of just clarification distinction there. Mark, if you wouldn't mind just kind of clarifying that one more time for us.
So this is the option of the clinic that you go to. It's their option purely, but the clinic has the option of either billing you for the disease that you're coming in for, billing insurance, just like we would bill any other patient, or they may bill just as a cannabis clinic, which insurance will not pay for, and you have to pay in cash. But patients need to understand that Medicaid, Medicare, every private insurance company, they pay for diagnoses such as neuropathic pain or cancer or PTSD or autism. They pay for those visits. And if I decide to recommend cannabis for one of those conditions, it does not affect the payment. So in my case, every one of my patients that I have is on cannabis, all those patient visits have been covered by their insurance, no questions asked. And we haven't had the patients have to pay anything out of pocket. So there's reasons for both sides. I understand both approaches, but patients need to understand that both exist.
Mm-hmm. And thank you again for that clarification. I do think there's another important point to make here. While insurance may cover a QMP consultation, depending on what provider you go to, insurance will not cover any of your cannabis medication. So definitely do not, we don't want to give you the wrong impression that because you can use because you can use insurance to cover a QMP consultation, depending on the provider, you cannot use insurance to pay for cannabis medicine. So just really want to make sure that we're driving that point home. I think that's all I've got. I'm checking out the chat. It looks like a lot of the questions got answered in real time. So again, thanks, Des, for helping out with that. I wanted to open it up to the floor. Do any of our co-hosts have anything they want to leave our audience members with before we start our feed here? Awesome.
I think it's just great that you're doing this. I thank you for the opportunity to be part of it, but I really congratulate you for taking the initiative to offer this to people in Utah. We really appreciate that, Dr. Babitz. We're so excited to be doing this type of content and putting this information out for the patients in Utah. And again, please don't forget, this is just our first Cannabis Night School. We're going to be doing these every other Wednesday, same time, same place. Our next topic that we're really excited about is going to be cannabis law. We're going to have JD Lordson, the Leafy lawyer, joining us for that one. We're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of medical cannabis, what a medical cannabis card protects you from, things of that nature. I think there's going to be a lot of information that patients aren't aware of that we're going to be sharing there. So definitely tune in for that one. That'll be on May 12th. Again, Facebook Live at 7 p.m. So I guess that ends class. I'm hearing a bell ringing. So don't forget to do your homework, guys. Reach out to us on Facebook, reach out to us on Instagram, shoot us an email, hello@wholesome.co. And we'll look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you guys so much for your time. It was a blast.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julian.
Thanks. It was fun.
Excellent. Now, how do I stop a live? That's the next question.
Now that's the fun thing. We just sit here.
Now we just say, I think I found it. All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.